Commander Yoon Tae-min stood on the bridge of the UES Incheon, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. His hands were steady on the control panel, but his heart was beating fast. Today was the day that would change everything for humanity. Today they would meet aliens for the first time. The Incheon was not the biggest ship in Earth's fleet, but it was fast and looked peaceful. That was important. The aliens had sent messages demanding that Earth surrender, but they also said they wanted to talk first. Captain Park Ji-hai thought it was best to arrive in a ship that did not look like a weapon. "Commander, we are getting close to the meeting point," said Dr. Kim Do-hyun from his station. He was the team's expert on alien languages. For months he had been studying the alien messages, learning their words and trying to understand how they thought. "Thank you, Doctor," Taemin replied. He turned to look at the rest of the team. Captain Park was reviewing her notes one more time. She would do most of the talking with the aliens. Lee Sang-ho was checking his equipment. As their military expert, he would watch everything the aliens did and try to learn about their weapons and ships. "Captain, I am seeing something on the long-range sensors," called out Engineer Bae Woo-jin from the back of the bridge. His voice was calm, but Taemin could hear the worry in it. Park looked up from her notes. "What do you see, Engineer?" "Big ships, very big. They are much larger than anything we have ever built." Bae Woo-jin's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "I count at least 6 of them, maybe more." Dr. Choi Min-jung, their physicist, moved to look at Bae's screen. She had been quiet during most of the trip, but now her eyes were wide. "These energy readings are incredible. Each of those ships is putting out more power than our biggest space stations." Taemin felt his mouth go dry, but he kept his voice steady. "How long until we reach them?" 10 minutes, sir," Bae replied. Park stood up and smoothed down her uniform. "Remember, everyone, we are here to listen and learn. We do not make any deals today. We just talk and then go back to Earth with information." As the Incheon got closer to the meeting point, the alien ships became visible on the main screen. Taemin had seen pictures from the probe messages, but seeing them in person was different. The alien ships were huge, dark metal monsters covered in weapon ports and glowing with strange lights. Each one was at least 10 times bigger than the Incheon. "Incoming message," said Kim Do-hyun. "They want to talk." "Put it on screen," Park ordered. The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge take a step back. The alien that looked back at them was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and black, and when it spoke, its voice was deep and full of authority. "I am Fleet Admiral Krextha of the Velthari Confederation," the alien said. The translation program turned its words into English, but the tone was clear in any language. This was a being used to being obeyed. "You are representatives of the species called humans?" Captain Park stepped forward. "Yes, Admiral. I am Captain Park Ji-hai of the United Earthship Incheon. We received your messages and came to talk." Krextha's head moved in what might have been a nod. "Good. You will come aboard my flagship. We have much to discuss about your planet's future." "With respect, Admiral," Park said carefully, "we would prefer to talk here, on neutral ground. Perhaps we could meet on one of the smaller ships or even in spacesuits between our vessels." The alien's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. For a moment, Taemin thought it might be angry. Then Krextha made a sound that could have been laughter. "You think you are in a position to make requests, little human? Look around you. Look at our ships and yours. Do you see the difference?" Park did not let her expression change. "I see that you have very impressive ships, Admiral, but I also see that you asked for this meeting. That tells me you prefer talking to fighting just as we do." Krextha was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke again. "Very well. We will meet in the space between our ships. But know this, Captain Park Ji-hai. You speak with the voice of a dying species. When this day is done, humanity will serve the Confederation or humanity will be no more." The screen went dark. The bridge of the Incheon was completely quiet for several seconds. "Well," said Lee Sang-ho finally. "He seems friendly." Despite everything, Park almost smiled. "Get ready, everyone. We have work to do." An hour later, Captain Park and her team were floating in space between the 2 fleets. The aliens had brought a large platform that created a bubble of air around them, so they could talk without spacesuits. It was advanced technology, but Park tried not to look impressed. Fleet Admiral Krextha arrived with 6 other aliens, all wearing what looked like military uniforms. They were all tall and thin like Krextha, but some had different colored skin or different patterns on their faces. "Let us begin," Krextha said without any greeting. Your species has developed faster than light travel. This means you are no longer children playing in your own system. You have entered the galaxy, and the galaxy belongs to the Velthari Confederation. Dr. Kim Do-hyun was recording everything, while Lee Sang-ho watched the alien ships in the distance. Park kept her attention on Krextha. "We are honored to meet you, Admiral," Park said, "but we must respectfully disagree. Earth belongs to humans just as your worlds belong to your people." Another of the aliens stepped forward. This one had darker gray skin and scars across its face. "You do not understand, human. We are not asking for your opinion. We are telling you how things will be." Krextha raised one of his 4 hands and the other alien stepped back. "Let me show you something, Captain Park, so that you understand your situation clearly." The Admiral spoke into a device on his wrist. Suddenly lights began flashing on the alien ships. Energy built up in weapons that were bigger than the Incheon itself. Then, all at once, they fired. The target was a large asteroid about 1,000,000 kilometers away. Through the viewing screen on their platform, the humans watched as beams of pure energy struck the rock. The asteroid, which had been the size of a small mountain, simply disappeared. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was nothing but glowing gas and tiny pieces of debris. "Each of our ships can do this," Krextha said calmly. "We have 12 ships here today. Your Earth has 1 billion humans living on it. Do you understand the mathematics, Captain?" Park felt her stomach drop, but she kept her voice steady. "I understand that you have very powerful weapons, Admiral. I also understand that you could have destroyed Earth already if that was your goal. The fact that you are here talking to us tells me that you want something other than destruction." Krextha's black eyes studied Park carefully. "You are more intelligent than most species we encounter. Yes, we prefer to add new worlds to our confederation rather than destroy them. Dead worlds produce nothing useful." "And what would you want from us?" Park asked. "Your complete surrender, of course. Your technology, your resources, your people. In return, we offer you protection and the chance to serve a greater cause. Many species have found happiness under Velthari rule." Lee Sang-ho spoke up quietly. "What about the species that did not find happiness?" Krextha turned his attention to the military analyst. "They learned to find happiness, or they learned to be quiet. Both options are available to humanity." Dr. Choi Min-jung had been taking readings of the alien weapons during the demonstration. Now she looked up from her equipment with a thoughtful expression. Park caught her eye and saw something there that made her feel a little better. Min-jung had learned something important. "This is a big decision for our species," Park said to Krextha. "We will need time to discuss it with our leaders on Earth." "Time?" Krextha seemed surprised. "You need time to choose between life and death?" "We need time to choose between different kinds of life," Park replied. "You are offering us survival, but survival as servants. That is not a choice we can make quickly or lightly." The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "You have 72 of your hours. Return to your world. Speak to your leaders. When you come back, you will bring Earth surrender or you will watch your planet burn." "Thank you for your patience, Admiral," Park said. "We will return with our answer." As the meeting ended and the humans returned to the Incheon, Tae-min felt the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. In 3 days, he would have to return to this place and watch Captain Park deliver humanity's fate to an alien conqueror. But as they flew back toward the inner system, he noticed that Dr. Choi Min-jung was smiling slightly as she worked on her data. And Engineer Bae Woo-jin was sending encrypted messages back to Earth that seemed much longer than a simple report would need to be. Maybe, Tae-min thought, there was more to this situation than Fleet Admiral Krextha realized. Fleet Admiral Krextha watched the small human ship disappear into the darkness of space. Around him, the bridge of his flagship hummed with quiet efficiency. His officers worked at their stations, monitoring the dozens of systems that kept the massive warship running. "Admiral," said his second-in-command, Captain Veltar, "the humans seem more stubborn than most new species. Perhaps we should have destroyed their ship as an example." Krextha turned his large black eyes toward his subordinate. "No, Captain. Fear is useful, but terror makes species do stupid things. These humans will return with their surrender. They always do." In the 300 years that the Velthari Confederation had been expanding across the galaxy, Krextha had overseen the integration of 47 different species. The pattern was always the same. First contact, demonstration of power, period of consideration, and then surrender. Some species took longer than others to accept their new place in the galaxy. But they all came to the same conclusion in the end. Humans would be no different. On the human ship Incheon, now several hours away from the alien fleet, Captain Park sat in her private office reviewing the recordings of their meeting. Dr. Kim Do-hyun had done excellent work translating not just the aliens' words, but also their body language and tone. The picture that emerged was not encouraging. "Captain," came Engineer Bae Woo-jin's voice over the communication system. "Could you come to the engineering section? Dr. Choi and I have something to show you." Park made her way through the ship's corridors to the engineering deck. She found Bae and Dr. Choi Min-jung working together at a large display screen covered with numbers and diagrams. "What do you have for me?" Park asked. Dr. Choi turned from the screen, her expression serious but not hopeless. "We got very good readings during their weapons demonstration. Their technology is impressive but not impossible." "Explain." Bae brought up a new display showing energy patterns. "Their main weapons are particle beam cannons. Very powerful, very advanced, but they work on principles we understand. The energy requirements are enormous, which means they probably cannot fire them continuously." Dr. Choi nodded. "More importantly, their ships are built for intimidation as much as warfare. Look at this." She pointed to structural diagrams they had made from their scans. "All those weapons, all that armor, but their power systems are centralized. If you could damage the right systems, the whole ship would be crippled." Park studied the information carefully. "Are you telling me their ships have weaknesses?" "Every ship has weaknesses," Bae replied. "The question is whether you have the weapons to exploit them." "And do we?" Dr. Choi and Bae looked at each other. "That," said Dr. Choi slowly, "is not a question we can answer. That decision is far above our level." Park understood. They were scientists and engineers, not military planners. But their information would be very valuable to the people who were military planners. "Send everything to Earth Command immediately," Park ordered. "Full encryption, highest priority." Back on Earth, in a deep underground facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Fleet Admiral Oh Kyung-soo was reading reports that made him both worried and excited. The aliens were as dangerous as Earth's leaders had feared. But they were not gods. "Analysis confirms that their technology is advanced but not beyond our understanding," reported Defense Minister Yoon Hana from her seat at the conference table. Around them, the most important people in Earth's government and military were gathered for an emergency session. President Kang Jae-sung looked tired. He had not slept since the alien ultimatum arrived. "Admiral, I need to know our options. Can we fight them and win?" Admiral Oh was quiet for a long moment. "Mr. President, that depends on many factors. If we face them in open battle, ship to ship, we will lose. Their vessels are larger and more heavily armed than anything in our current fleet." "Then we surrender?" asked the President. "I did not say that, sir." Oh stood up and activated a large display screen. "For the past 20 years, since we first detected signs of alien civilizations, we have been preparing for this day. Not just by building weapons, but by building the right weapons." The screen showed images of space installations that looked like research stations and mining facilities. "These aliens expect us to fight like they fight. Big ships, heavy weapons, direct confrontation. But humans learned long ago that the best way to win a fight is to change the rules." Dr. Lim Sung-jun from the Terra Defense Initiative spoke up from his place at the table. "Project Hidden Shield is ready for activation, Mr. President. We have assets in place throughout the solar system that the aliens have not detected." "What kind of assets?" the President asked. Admiral Oh smiled grimly. "The kind that will surprise them, sir." Meanwhile, back at the alien fleet, Fleet Admiral Krextha was growing impatient. The humans had been gone for 18 hours and still no word of surrender. It was taking longer than usual, but not longer than he had expected. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, "we are detecting increased radio traffic from the human home system. They appear to be discussing the situation with their leaders." "As expected," Krextha replied. "Any indication of their decision?" "No, sir. Their communications are heavily encrypted." Krextha was not concerned. Encryption meant fear, and fear meant they understood their situation. Soon they would return with their planet's surrender. To pass the time and maintain the pressure on the humans, Krextha decided on another demonstration. He ordered his fleet to move closer to the human solar system and target several more asteroids. "All ships prepare for synchronized firing exercise," he commanded. "Let us show these humans what happens to things that resist the Confederation." 12 massive Velthari warships turned their weapons toward a cluster of asteroids near the edge of the system. The energy buildup was visible from millions of kilometers away as each ship charged its main weapons. Fire! The space between the alien fleet and the asteroids filled with beams of destructive energy. Rock that had existed for billions of years vanished in seconds. The display of raw power was impressive even to the aliens who created it. But what Krextha did not know was that hidden sensors throughout the solar system were recording every detail of the attack. Human scientists studied the energy patterns, the firing sequences, and the brief moment when each alien ship was vulnerable while its weapons recharged. On a small, seemingly unimportant space station near Mars, Commander Hanboram watched the alien demonstration on her screens. To anyone looking, her station appeared to be nothing more than a mineral processing facility. In reality, it was the command center for humanity's hidden defense network. "Did you get all that?" she asked her sensor specialist. "Every bit of it, Commander. We now have complete firing patterns for their main weapon systems." "Excellent. Send it all to Earth Command and to the other stations. Make sure Hidden Shield knows what these ships can do." Han looked out through the station's observation window toward the distant alien fleet. They thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would be awed by their power. They had no idea what humanity was really capable of. But they would learn soon enough. On the bridge of the Incheon, now halfway back to Earth, Captain Park received a message that made her smile for the first time since meeting the aliens. It was from Admiral O, and it contained just 5 words: "Bring them our counteroffer." Dr. Kim Do-yun looked up from his translation work. "Captain, what is a counteroffer in this situation? What could we possibly offer them?" Park's smile grew wider. "The chance to leave our solar system with their ships intact, Doctor. The chance to go home and tell their leaders that they found a species they could not conquer." Lee Sang-ho frowned. "Captain, with respect, did you see those weapons? Did you see what they did to those asteroids? How can we make threats against ships like that?" "We are not making threats, Lieutenant," Park replied. "We are making promises, and humans, Mr. Lee, are very good at keeping their promises." As the Incheon continued toward Earth, its crew began to understand that their mission was about to change completely. They had gone out as diplomats hoping to find a peaceful solution. They were coming back as the messengers of humanity's true intentions. And somewhere in the darkness between the planets, systems that had been waiting in silence for 20 years began to wake up. The aliens thought they had given humanity an ultimatum. They were about to learn that humanity had a counteroffer of their own. Fleet Admiral Krextha looked out at the stars and felt satisfied with his work. In 54 hours, the humans would return and surrender their world. It would be another easy victory for the Confederation. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake of his long military career. The secure conference room deep beneath Geneva was filled with tension. Captain Park's image appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the Incheon as it approached Earth. Around the table sat the most powerful people in human government and military, all waiting to hear her full report. "The aliens are exactly what we expected and feared," Park was saying. "They have overwhelming firepower, complete confidence in their superiority, and no interest in negotiating as equals. They see us as primitives who should be grateful for the chance to serve them." President Kang Jae-sung leaned forward in his chair. "Captain, in your professional opinion, is there any chance they might accept a peaceful coexistence agreement?" Park was quiet for a moment before answering. "No, Mr. President. These beings have conquered dozens of species using the same method. They genuinely believe that might makes right, and that their technology gives them the right to rule over everyone else." Defense Minister Yoon Hana spoke up. "Then we are at war." "Not yet," said Admiral Oh Kyung-soo. "But we will be, unless we can convince them that conquering humanity is more trouble than it is worth." Dr. Lim Seung-jun activated his tablet and began bringing up classified files. "Mr. President, for 20 years we have been preparing for this exact situation. Ever since our deep space telescopes detected signs of advanced civilizations, we knew this day would come. We have been building for war while hoping for peace." The president looked around the room at his advisors. "Show me what we have." The room's main display screen changed to show a tactical map of the solar system. What had looked empty before was now filled with icons representing hidden installations, concealed ships, and weapons platforms that had been disguised as research stations and mining operations. "Operation Hidden Shield," Dr. Lim explained. was designed on a simple principle. If we ever face a technologically superior enemy, our only advantage would be surprise. We have built a defense network that looks like civilian infrastructure but is actually the most advanced military system humanity has ever created. Admiral O stood and pointed to various locations on the display. The aliens detected our obvious military installations and dismissed them as primitive. What they did not detect are the stealth shipyards in the asteroid belt, the weapons platforms hidden inside Jupiter's moons, and the fleet of ships that have been waiting in the outer system for 2 decades. Captain Park's voice came through the speakers. Admiral, how many ships are we talking about? 47 combat vessels, Captain. Not as large as the alien ships, but built with technologies they have never seen before. Our weapons are designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses in their ship designs. Defense Minister Yoon looked skeptical. Admiral, even with surprise on our side, can 47 ships defeat 12 alien dreadnoughts? Dr. Lim smiled grimly. Minister, you are thinking about this like a traditional space battle, but we are not going to fight them in traditional ways. We studied every alien conquest we could find evidence of, and they all followed the same pattern. The aliens arrive, demonstrate overwhelming force, demand surrender, and then integrate the new species into their empire. What are you suggesting? Asked the President. We are going to break their pattern, sir. We are going to show them that sometimes the smaller species fights back with weapons the larger species never imagined. Meanwhile, aboard the hidden battleship Seoul, drifting silently in the shadow of Saturn's rings, Captain Ryu Junho was reviewing final preparations with his senior staff. The Seoul was humanity's most advanced warship, built in secret over the past 15 years using technologies that pushed the limits of human engineering. Status report, Ryu requested. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Shin Dong-wook, consulted his displays. All railgun batteries are charged and ready. Fusion torpedoes are loaded and armed. Stealth systems are operating at full efficiency. The Seoul did not look like the massive, intimidating warships that the aliens preferred. It was sleek, dark, and built for speed and precision rather than raw firepower. But the weapons it carried could punch holes through armor that the aliens thought was impenetrable. Commander, we are receiving activation codes from Earth Command, reported Communications Officer Kim Hee-jin. Ryu felt his pulse quicken. After years of waiting, Hidden Shield was finally going active. Acknowledge receipt and confirm readiness to all units, he ordered. And send a message to the Busan, Gwangju, Daegu, and Ulsan. Tell them it is almost time to introduce ourselves to our new friends. Throughout the solar system, similar scenes were playing out on ships and stations that had been hiding for decades. On the battle station disguised as a research facility near Jupiter, Commander Han Bo-ram was running final system checks on weapons that could destroy a moon if necessary. In the asteroid belt, shipyards that had been producing mining equipment were opening their doors to reveal sleek fighters and bombers. Back on the Incheon, Captain Park was preparing for the most important speech of her career. In 18 hours, she would return to face Fleet Admiral Krextha. But this time, she would not be going alone. Dr. Kim Do-hyun was working on translating a message that would either end the crisis or start the first interstellar war in human history. Captain, are you certain about this approach? Once you say these words, there will be no going back. Park looked out at the stars through the ship's observation window. Doctor, humanity has been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the night sky and wondered who else was out there. We always knew we might someday meet someone who saw us as prey rather than friends. But are we ready for war? Asked Lee Sang-ho. We are ready to defend ourselves, Park replied. And sometimes that is the same thing. Fleet Admiral Krextha was beginning to feel the first stirrings of annoyance. The humans were taking much longer to surrender than any species he had encountered before. Usually by this point he would have received dozens of messages begging for mercy and promising cooperation. Instead, the human home system was strangely quiet. There was normal civilian traffic, normal communications, but no signs of panic or preparation for surrender. Captain Veltar, he called to his second-in-command. What do your analysts think about the human delay? Veltar consulted his reports. The consensus is that their government is fragmented and having difficulty reaching a decision. Some factions probably want to surrender, while others may be advocating for resistance. Resistance? Krextha almost laughed. With what? We detected their military installations when we arrived. A few orbital stations, some system patrol ships, nothing that could threaten even one of our vessels. Perhaps they are hoping for rescue, Admiral. Maybe they have contacted other species and are waiting for help to arrive. Krextha shook his head. Impossible. We monitor all communications in this region of space. No messages have left this system since our arrival. Oh, Captain. They are simply taking time to argue among themselves about how best to surrender. It is not uncommon among less advanced species. What Krextha did not know was that humanity's quantum communication system operated on principles that his sensors could not detect. Messages had indeed been sent to other human colonies and research stations throughout local space, but not asking for help. They were warning humanity's other settlements that the long-feared day had finally arrived, and that Earth was about to make its stand. On Luna, the moon's largest city was quietly evacuating non-essential personnel. On Mars, the research colonies were activating defensive systems that had been built into their foundations. Throughout the outer system, mining operations were shutting down and their workers were boarding ships that looked like cargo haulers but carried enough firepower to level cities. Humanity was not panicking. Humanity was getting ready for war. Admiral O stood in the command center of Earth Defense Command, watching displays that showed the positioning of every human asset in the solar system. For the first time in his career, he was about to order the activation of weapons that had been built in absolute secrecy. All stations report ready, Admiral, said his aide. Colonel Park Min-seo, very well, Colonel. Send the activation codes. Authorization Omega 77 Alpha. Throughout the solar system, installations that had appeared to be civilian facilities began to transform. Solar collectors that had been gathering energy for decades suddenly pivoted to reveal massive railgun batteries. Mining stations opened up to disclose missile launchers and beam weapons. Research ships powered up engines that were far more advanced than anything the aliens had detected. Most importantly, the stealth fields that had been hiding humanity's true military assets shut down one by one. Ships that had been invisible suddenly appeared on sensors. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroids revealed their true nature. A defense network that had taken 2 decades to build came online all at once. On the bridge of his flagship, Fleet Admiral Krextha was reviewing patrol reports when his sensor officer suddenly called out in alarm. Admiral, I am detecting massive energy signatures throughout the human system. New contacts are appearing everywhere. Krextha rushed to the sensor station. What do you mean, new contacts? Sir, there are ships and installations appearing that were not there an hour ago. Either they just arrived or they were hidden, Krextha finished grimly. He looked at the sensor display with growing concern. The UES Incheon approached the alien fleet exactly 72 hours after leaving. But this time, Captain Park was not worried about appearing weak or helpless. This time, she had a very different message to deliver. Fleet Admiral Krextha waited on his flagship's bridge, surrounded by his officers. The past few hours had been disturbing. His sensor teams had confirmed that the humans had somehow hidden a significant military presence throughout their solar system. Ships and installations that should have been detected days ago were suddenly visible everywhere. Admiral, reported his intelligence officer, we count at least 40 human warships now visible, plus numerous weapons platforms and defensive installations. Either they built all of this in the past 3 days, or their stealth technology is far more advanced than we initially assessed. Krextha's 4 hands clenched into fists. Neither option is acceptable. How could our sensors have missed so much? Unknown, sir. We are detecting technologies that do not match any known patterns in our database. The Admiral forced himself to remain calm. It did not matter how many ships the humans had hidden. Quantity did not equal quality, and his 12 dreadnoughts could still destroy anything the primitives could build. Incoming transmission from the human vessel, announced the communications. Officer, put it through, Captain. Park appeared on the main screen looking calm and confident. Admiral Krextha, I have returned with Earth's response to your generous offer. I trust you bring your planet's surrender, Krextha replied, though he was no longer as confident as he sounded. Park smiled slightly. Not exactly, Admiral. We have a counteroffer. Counteroffer? Krextha's voice rose. You are in no position to make offers, human. Look around you. Count our ships. I am looking around, Admiral. And I am counting ships, but I think you may want to do the same. Before Krextha could respond, his sensor officer called out in alarm. Admiral. New contacts. Multiple ships decloaking around our position. The main display changed to show a tactical view of the space around the alien fleet. Sleek human warships were appearing from nowhere, materializing out of empty space like ghosts becoming solid. Within moments, the Velthari fleet found itself surrounded by vessels that should not have existed. Impossible, whispered Captain Veltar. Our sensors show nothing, then suddenly they are there. Krextha watched in growing horror as more human ships continued to decloak. The UES Sol, a battleship nearly as large as his own flagship, took position directly in front of the alien fleet. Around it, the Busan, Gwangju, Daegu, and Ulsan formed a perfect combat formation. Admiral, came a new voice over the communication system. This is Captain Ryu Jun-ho of the United Earthship Sol. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to our solar system. Krextha found his voice. This is not possible. Our intelligence shows that your species has only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. You should not have technology like this. Captain Park was still on the screen, still smiling. Admiral, you made an assumption about humanity based on incomplete information. You saw what we wanted you to see, just as we have been seeing everything about your ships and weapons. Since the moment you arrived, Dr. Choi Min-jung stepped into view beside Park. We recorded complete, technical specifications of your vessels during your weapons. Demonstration, Admiral. Your particle beam weapons are impressive, but they have a charging cycle that leaves you vulnerable for 3.7 seconds after each shot. Your armor is strong against energy weapons, but it was not designed to stop kinetic projectiles traveling at relativistic speeds. Krextha felt his confidence crumbling. You analyzed our weapons? Of course we did, Park replied. Did you think we would just watch you destroy asteroids without learning anything? Admiral, humanity has been studying alien civilizations for 20 years. We know about the Velthari Confederation. We know about your expansion methods. We know about the 47 species you have conquered using exactly the approach you tried with us. Captain Ryu's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral Krextha, we are prepared to offer you and your fleet safe passage out of our solar system. Your ships will not be harmed, and you may return to your leaders with a simple message. Earth is not available for conquest. You dare threaten us? Krextha's voice was filled with rage. We are the Velthari Confederation. We have ruled this galaxy for 3 centuries. You have ruled part of this galaxy for 3 centuries, Park corrected. But you have never encountered a species like humanity before. We do not surrender to bullies, Admiral. We fight back. Krextha turned to his weapons officer. Power all weapons. Target the human flagship. Admiral, wait, urged Captain Veltar. Look at the tactical display. We are completely surrounded. If we fire on one of their ship, then we will destroy it and move on to the next. But as the Velthari weapons began to charge, something unexpected happened. Energy signatures that had been hidden throughout the solar system suddenly blazed to life. The research station near Jupiter revealed itself to be a massive weapons platform with firepower that dwarfed even the alien dreadnoughts. Mining facilities in the asteroid belt opened up to expose railgun batteries that could fire projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Admiral, whispered his sensor officer, the energy readings from their hidden installations. They are enormous. Some of them are larger than our own ships. Lieutenant Commander Shin Dong-wook's voice came over the communication system. Admiral Krextha, you now have approximately 15 seconds before our weapons finish targeting your ships. I recommend you power down your weapons and listen to Captain Park's offer. For the first time in his long military career, Fleet Admiral Krextha found himself facing an enemy that was not afraid of him. The humans had not only hidden their true military capabilities, they had built weapons specifically designed to counter Velthari tactics and technology. How? He asked quietly. How did you know we were coming? Park's expression softened slightly. Admiral, humanity learned long ago that the universe is full of predators. When we detected signs of advanced civilizations, we had to assume that some of them might see us as prey, so we prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Dr. Kim Do-hyun stepped into view. We studied every alien encounter we could find evidence of in radio transmissions and deep space debris. The Velthari pattern was consistent. Arrival, demonstration of force, demands for surrender, integration, or destruction. We built our entire defense strategy around disrupting that pattern. Captain Ryu added, You expected to find a primitive species that would be awed by your technology, and overwhelmed by your firepower. Instead, you found a species that has been preparing for this exact confrontation for 20 years. Krextha looked around his bridge at his officers. For 3 centuries, the Velthari had used their superior technology and military might to expand their empire. They had never faced serious resistance because they had never encountered a species that could match their capabilities. But humanity had not tried to match their capabilities. Instead, they had built something entirely different. They had created a defense that turned the Velthari's own tactics against them. "What do you want?" Krextha asked finally. "We want you to leave our solar system," Park replied simply. "We want you to return to your leaders and tell them that Earth is defended by people who will not surrender, who will not serve, and who will fight for their freedom no matter what the odds." "And if we refuse?" Captain Ryu answered that question. "Then you will discover what human weapons are capable of, Admiral. But I do not recommend that course of action." On the tactical display, Krextha could see that his 12 ships were completely outgunned. The humans had spent 2 decades building a defense network that turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Even if the Velthari could win a battle here, the cost would be enormous, and there was something else. The humans were not acting like any species the Confederation had encountered before. They were calm, confident, and prepared. They had turned his own tactics against him, using his assumptions and expectations to hide their true strength until the moment of revelation. These were not primitives to be easily conquered. These were equals who had chosen to fight. "Admiral," urged Captain Veltar quietly, "we should consider their offer. A tactical withdrawal would allow us to return with reinforcements." "No," said Park, somehow hearing the whispered conversation. "Admiral, let me be very clear. If you leave now and return with more ships, you will find that we have had even more time to prepare. Earth's defenses will only grow stronger, and our weapons more advanced. Your best chance for a peaceful resolution is right now, today." Krextha realized that he was facing a choice that no Velthari commander had ever faced before. He could fight a battle that might destroy both fleets, or he could accept that humanity was not a species that could be conquered by force. For the first time in Confederation history, Fleet Admiral Krextha was about to discover what retreat felt like. The silence on the bridge of Fleet Admiral Krextha's flagship stretched for long minutes. Around him, his officers waited for orders that he was not sure how to give. In 3 centuries of Velthari expansion, no commander had ever faced this situation. Finally, Krextha spoke. "Captain Park, you said you studied our methods. What exactly did you learn?" Park looked thoughtful before answering. "We learned that the Velthari Confederation has survived by being the strongest force in every encounter. You find species that are weaker than you, demonstrate your superiority, and then offer them a choice between service and destruction. It has worked for 300 years because you had never met a species that was prepared for your arrival. But how did you prepare? You should not have had enough time to build all of this." Dr. Lim Sung-jun's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Admiral Krextha, may I answer that question?" A new face appeared on screen beside Captain Park. The elderly scientist looked tired but determined. "Admiral, humanity discovered signs of your civilization 43 years ago. Radio transmissions, debris from conquered worlds, energy signatures from your weapons. We spent 4 decades preparing for the day when you would find us." Krextha felt a chill run through his body. 43 years. "You have known about us for 43 years? "We knew about several advanced civilizations," Dr. Lim continued. "We did not know which one would find us first or what their intentions would be. So we prepared for the worst possible case. We built our entire space program around the assumption that we would someday face an enemy with superior technology who saw us as prey." Captain Ryu's voice added, "Every human space station, every research facility, every mining operation for the past 20 years has been built with dual purposes. We could function as civilians in peacetime, but transform into military assets when threatened." Krextha turned to his intelligence officer. "Is this possible? Could they have hidden so much for so long?" The officer looked uncomfortable. "Admiral, our exploration methods are designed to identify threats and resources, not to detect elaborate deceptions. If a species spent decades preparing to fool our sensors..." "We did more than fool your sensors," interrupted Engineer Bei Wu-jin from the Incheon. "We studied your technology and built counters to it. Every weapon you demonstrated, we designed defenses against. Every tactic you have used against other species, we prepared responses to. Dr. Choi Min-jung brought up technical displays on the communication screen. Your particle beam weapons are devastating against conventional armor, but they cannot penetrate the metamaterial composites we developed. Your ships are built for intimidation and overwhelming force, but they are vulnerable to fast, precise attacks from multiple directions. Show me, Krextha demanded. Captain Ryu's voice became formal. Admiral, I am transmitting targeting data to your sensors. Please observe. The alien sensors detected dozens of targeting locks from the human weapons. Every critical system on every Velthari ship was being tracked by multiple human weapons platforms. The data showed that if the battle began, the alien fleet would be crippled within the first few minutes of fighting. This is not possible, whispered Captain Veltar. Our shields, our armor. Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons, said Lieutenant Commander Shin Dong-wook. Our railguns fire solid projectiles at 12% of light speed. Your armor can absorb enormous amounts of heat, but it cannot stop kinetic impacts of that magnitude. Fleet Admiral Krextha studied the targeting data with growing realization. The humans had not just built weapons to fight the Velthari. They had built weapons specifically designed to destroy Velthari ships. You planned all of this, he said slowly. From the moment you detected us, you began preparing for war. We prepared for survival, Park corrected. We hoped that any species we encountered would be peaceful. But we were not willing to bet our entire civilization on that hope. Admiral Oh Kyung-soo appeared on the screen from Earth Command. Admiral Krextha, humanity has a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We hoped that when we met other species we would find friends. We prepared for the possibility that we would find enemies. Krextha felt something he had not experienced in decades. Respect for an opponent. Your species is more dangerous than we realized. Our species is exactly as dangerous as it needs to be, Park replied. No more, no less. We do not seek to conquer others, Admiral. We seek only to remain free. And what happens now? Krextha asked. Do you destroy us? Do you take our ships and study our technology? Captain Ryu answered. We offered you safe passage, Admiral. That offer stands. Leave our system. Return to your leaders and tell them what you learned here. Tell them that Earth is defended by a species that will not surrender. And if we return with reinforcements? If the Confederation decides to send a battle fleet large enough to overwhelm your defenses? Dr. Lim smiled grimly. Admiral, you have seen only our current defenses. How do you think they will have improved if you give us more time to prepare? How many more weapons will we have built? How many more innovations will our scientists have developed? The alien commander realized the trap he was in. If he retreated now, he would return to his leaders having failed in his mission. If he returned with reinforcements later, he would face defenses that had grown even stronger. And if he fought now, he would likely lose his entire fleet. But there was something else. Something in the way the humans spoke and acted that made Krextha think differently about the situation. Captain Park, he said slowly, your species has shown remarkable creativity in preparing for this encounter. Tell me, what would happen if the Velthari approached you not as conquerors but as equals? Park looked surprised by the question. What do you mean, Admiral? I mean, what if we came to you seeking trade agreements instead of surrender? What if we offered technology exchange instead of slavery? President Kang Jae-sung appeared on the screen from Earth. Admiral Krextha, are you suggesting that the Velthari Confederation might be interested in peaceful relations with humanity? Krextha was quiet for a long moment, thinking. In 3 centuries, the Confederation had expanded through conquest, because conquest had always been easier than negotiation. But these humans had changed the equation. They had made conquest costly and dangerous. Perhaps, he said finally, it is time for the Confederation to try a different approach. Captain Park looked at President Kang, who nodded slowly. Admiral, if you are sincere about peaceful contact, we would be willing to discuss it. But understand this. Any agreement would have to be between equals. We will not accept a treaty that makes us subjects or servants. And we will not disarm, added Admiral O firmly. Earth's defenses will remain in place as long as there are potential threats in the galaxy. Krextha looked around his bridge at his officers. They were all listening carefully to the conversation. For the first time in any of their careers, they were seeing their admiral negotiate instead of dictate terms. I will need to consult with the Confederation Council, Krexta said. This is not a decision I can make alone. We understand, Park replied. Take all the time you need, Admiral. But please understand that our offer of safe passage expires when you leave our solar system. If you return as enemies, you will find us ready for war. If you return as potential friends, you will find us ready for peace. Fleet Admiral Krexta made his decision. Very well. I will return to the Confederation capital and present your unique situation to the Council. Perhaps it is time for us to learn new ways of expanding our territory. Not expanding your territory, Admiral, President Kang corrected gently. Expanding your civilization through cooperation instead of conquest. As the alien fleet began powering down their weapons and preparing to leave, Krexta found himself thinking about the implications of what had happened. The humans had shown him something that no species in Confederation history had ever demonstrated: the ability to match. Velthari military might through careful preparation and innovative thinking, but more than that, they had shown him that there might be alternatives to the Confederation's traditional methods. Instead of conquering new species, perhaps they could form alliances with them. Instead of ruling through fear, perhaps they could lead through mutual benefit. Captain Park, he said as his ships began moving away from the human fleet, I have one final question. Why did you show us mercy? You could have destroyed us and taken our technology. Park smiled. Admiral, humanity learned something important from our own history. The strongest civilizations are not built on conquest and fear. They are built on cooperation and mutual respect. We showed you mercy because we hope someday you will show us friendship. As the Velthari fleet departed the Sol system, Krexta looked back at the human defenses that were once again fading from his sensors. Hidden weapons platforms were returning to stealth mode, and disguised warships were resuming their roles as civilian vessels. But he would never forget what he had seen. A species that had turned their entire solar system into a fortress without appearing to be militaristic. A people who had prepared for war while hoping for peace. A civilization that had shown him that there were alternatives to the Confederation's way of doing things.